Thank you for the introduction. It was funny, I was speaking with my students earlier today and I was presenting my topic to them for approval, and they were like, the beginning's really boring. And so I had started with some very technical information about, autism and what social skills are, and they're like, no, you have to do something exciting. And so then I'm thinking to myself, being a teacher, best practices dictates that you start every lesson with an activator, so something really exciting and fun that makes people want to know what you're going to spend the next hour talking about. Then you're going to build a little background knowledge so that everybody's on the same page as you continue to unpack that topic. Then you're going to offer the rest of the information in a structured format so that things kind of follow sequentially and the student leaves with this kind of 360-degree view of knowledge or of the information. And so usually we'll put a framework like, your who, what, where, when, why, how questions. And so I did that tonight. I was being really creative, right? And so I was thinking to myself, one of my favorite stories is from the beginning of the school year. And as you can see, I'm wearing red lipstick and I wear it all the time. And I think that it's easy for my students to pay attention because we don't always do the eye contact thing, because sometimes that can actually feel fairly uncomfortable. And if you were to turn to each other, please do so quickly, and look at each other, like look into each other's left eye. Like really stare. Does that feel really good? And I can't tell you how many kids, it's awful, at 15, 16 years old who are like, this is painful. And half of the adults that I talk to don't look me in the eye. So why is everyone telling me to look them in the eye? So I have the lipstick because that's something to look at. And at least I know they're paying attention to me and not, kind of like hiding their cell phones and playing Minecraft. So one day I don't have my lipstick on because I have a cold, I'm like blowing my nose and it's getting all over my face, so I just wipe it off so I don't look like a clown more than usual. And I don't have it on, and one of my students comes in and he goes, Nina, and I'm like, yeah, what's up? I see you're not doing the lipstick thing today. And I'm like, yeah, actually I kind of feel naked without it. It feels a little weird. And he goes, I'm a concrete thinker. I can't unsee that. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I think I'm really proud of him because he's advocated to me like, I'm a concrete thinker. What you just said is really gross. And B, I think to myself, there are so many social nuances to how we interact with each other and how we communicate. Especially, around here we have our New England vernacular. We say things are wicked this and awesome that. And, even the word literal or concrete, there are so many different ways to interpret those words. What I'm finding in the work that I do, I typically work with who would be considered under the high functioning end of the autism spectrum, is that the more knowledge that my students have to be able to communicate how they think, the more confident they are, the better they feel. But it's not really only for people who would fall under the autism spectrum, because if you think about it, we all need social skills to be able to interact with each other. We need them to walk down the hall, otherwise we'd all be crashing into each other. We need them to know what to do with ourselves when you're in the elevator with someone and it's kind of awkward and you're like, oh, second floor, yeah, I'm going there too. I don't know what else to say to you right now. We make eye contact, we say hi to people. If somebody makes small talk with us, if they initiate that contact, we're going to want to have something to respond to them with. And the hard thing about kids who fall under, like I said, I don't really love the term high functioning, but the high functioning end of the autism spectrum is that they're really smart. They're observant. They get a lot of things that go on. It's just connecting that knowledge with the real life application and doing things that are socially expected at the time when you would socially expect it to happen. And this all falls under a realm of education or study called social pragmatics. So social pragmatics, and I have to write it down because even though I teach it, sometimes it's hard to remember. You're using language, okay? So having the proper use, like I wouldn't walk up to you and say, bye, like, it was good to see you. I wouldn't, it is good to see you. I probably, I would want to know how to change the language. If it's night, I'm going to say good night. I'm not going to say good morning to you guys, right? That would be a little unexpected. But then also following societal rules. Now, social rules that we have around here are going to be different than if you went to another country, okay? Sometimes it depends on the religion, sometimes it depends on tradition, sometimes it depends on, whatever is locally appropriate. Knowing all of this stuff though and storing it and being able to regurgitate it at the right moment is really, really, really important. And that has to do with our brains and neurology. And so as I go on, I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about social thinking. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about autism, but really it's more about social skills and how we interact with each other and why we do the things that we do. And I'm not sure, maybe some of you have thought about it, but do you ever think about why if you were to walk into a men's room, this is pretty much a man thing, according to my male students, you maybe wouldn't walk to the urinal right next to another person who's in there. You might try to put a little space between you, right? Or if you're in an empty movie theater and there's one person sitting in that movie theater, you're not going to go up and sit down next to them and be like, what's up, It would be a little bit unexpected, right? So, but why do we do those things? Why do we want to either give each other space or be close to each other? Why do we hug when we're upset? So I'm going to, maybe I didn't turn it on all the way. Yay, who? We'll start with there, not Doctor Who, though I love him. So who are we talking about? We're talking about all of us. We're the who in this. But we're also talking about people who fall under the autism spectrum. Oh, there we go. So here is the population that I typically work with. Now, I don't only work with this population. I work at a progressive school in Massachusetts called the Tremont School. And so we're fully inclusive. Everybody's together all the time. We don't do kind of the segregated education thing. And to give you an idea, you've got your classic autism, and classic autism has impaired social interaction, communication, and restricted repetitive movements. These things apply all along the spectrum, and actually all of us in here, whether you have a diagnosis or not, have something in there too, okay? The thing is, some of these issues are so much more pronounced that they are affecting their ability to function independently in school, in society, at home. PDD-NOS is pervasive developmental delay, not otherwise specified. Poor kids who have that diagnosis, my eldest son included. We just say Asperger's because it's a lot easier. That's a lot for an 11-year-old kid to be able to tell people when he's saying, I'm having a tough time right now because I have PDD-NOS, which is no. And then you've got high-functioning autism, Asperger's syndrome. So you've got moderately impaired social interaction, some challenges in communication, and some mildly restrictive repetitive behaviors. You gotta understand that these are also your Mozarts, okay? That restricted repetitive interest may be music, maybe it's science, maybe it's math, maybe it's art. There are a lot of people who would fall under the category of savant in the autism universe. And they have these incredible gifts, but the ability to share those gifts with other people involves a lot of social interaction, so that's very important. So what? There are 3 criteria present in all autism diagnoses. So you've got the social skill impairment. You have challenges with communication, both expressive and receptive. So there's this whole thing called theory of mind, meaning that if I see somebody over here and they're looking at me right now like this, like I'm thinking in my mind, you're feeling bored right now. I'm going to do something exciting, move around a lot, and maybe that will make you feel excited to listen to what I'm saying. That wasn't honest, you're fine. But then also expressive, what if I were up here and I saw someone not paying attention and then I go up to them like, you're not paying attention to my talk. This is my time right now. You guys would feel like, oh my gosh, why did Andrew choose her to come here? She's really weird. It would get me some pretty negative attention. It wouldn't be cool. But then also in the population I work with, especially, we have a lot of sensory seeking or avoidant behaviors. Really loud noises, certain smells, if it's really bright in a room, the way that some clothing feels. All of these things either could be really, really off-putting or something that they seek for comfort measures. And then executive function challenges. So when I explain executive function to kids, I think executive, boss, function, work, boss work, okay? So organizing, tasks, organizing information, finding a logical sequence, so that instead of connecting dots in a million different ways, you're doing it in the most efficient, productive way possible. So I'll let you look at that for a moment. As I said, my oldest son has autism. We found that, his speech happened on time, everything was happening great and on time, and then he got into preschool and started having a lot of social trouble, and he would kind of be over on the side, like in a room far away, and having a really tough time. And we found that, explaining to him and talking to him about, who he was after he got his diagnosis was really helping him feel a lot less frustrated. Same goes for my students. So Oliver Sacks, a very famous neurologist, said, "To be ourselves, we must have ourselves, possess, if need be, repossess our life stories. We must recollect ourselves, recollect the inner drama, the narrative of ourselves. A man needs such a narrative, a continuous inner narrative, to maintain his identity in his self. But in order to really own those stories or possess them, we have to be able to communicate them. We have to be able to be present enough in our own lives and not be under so much stress that we're actually enjoying the moment, creating memories, being able to do the things that we want to do." We've heard a lot tonight about dreams and goals, and to be able to achieve those, you need to A, have the ability to plan it, but B, have the support and the understanding of yourself to make those things happen. So neuroscience is what I use in a lot of my teaching, and that's for understanding how your brain functions and then how all of your nerves and everything else interacts to make you feel the way that you do. And what I found is that when I am teaching my students about this in our classroom, and when we go out into the real world, because that's where all of this stuff needs to happen, is in realistic settings. In a little room over in the basement of some school is not going to be the place where you're learning real life social skills. But learning why your body does the things that it does and all of these things in real life and in real time is the most effective way to understand how your brain functions. So we have all these different parts of our brains. The one that I tend to focus on are the two are the amygdala, so your fight or flight response. Like when you were a caveman, you would get really sweaty and your heart would beat really fast and you'd be able to run farther and climb faster because you were trying to get away from a big scary thing that was going to eat you, okay? Now, nowadays, you can still have that reaction when you're going to public speak, okay? Or you're going to have it maybe before you are applying for colleges. And the problem is that when that happens, your frontal lobe, that thinking, organizing, logical part of your body just kind of shuts down. And it's not doing the things that it's supposed to do. So then you end up doing something dumb like trying to fight the tiger instead of maybe running away. Or maybe making a really smart choice to, distract the tiger, make a good plan, get away from said tiger. When I teach my students about how their brains function, I use a lot of visuals. The kids are very visual learners. Most people are. We use a lot of video. We talk about things that are happening in movies that they like, comic books, things like that, because they're great connecting pieces. And I find that when my students understand this, they can actually go out to other people and say, "I'm feeling this way because I'm feeling really stressed out." Or "I'm reacting this way because it's just too noisy in here or too bright." And then when they have that understanding and then also that sensory understanding, so what are the things that calm me down? What are the things that help me feel better? They can be in control rather than waiting for their parents to come and help or having a total meltdown, which is even more socially alienating. So when? I'll go back to when. I thought I had another slide in there. So when does this happen? Like I was saying before, it's going to happen all the time. It happens at home. It happens at school. It happens at work. And why? So according to a June 2012 survey by Autism Speaks, 9 out of 10 adults on the autism spectrum are underemployed and unemployed. And the tough thing about that is, again, I said, these kids are so brilliant. They're the quirky kids who you might see in the hallway. When I was growing up, it was just kind of like, oh, he's a little odd, that's okay. Nowadays, we have better diagnostic materials. We can figure out exactly what's going on. And the reason that this is important is because I'm a big civil rights person. To me, this is the next really huge civil rights movement that's coming up because everybody deserves to be able to be happy, to be able to have their dreams and their goals happen for them. And they can only do that when they have the tools to be able to do it. And people have a right to those tools. People have a right to education. And it's our job, communally, teacher-wise, students, all of you guys who are here who are kids, it's our job to be making the world a place where people feel comfortable asking questions or advocating for themselves, or that if they can't do it, that you're the ones in there helping them do that, because that quality of life is just going to increase as time goes on. We have all these great early intervention tools and all these things, but then middle school and high school, things kind of drop off because we can't use the cutesy curriculum anymore. If a kid walks into a place and says, you know, I'm having a sad thought right now, and they're 15, 16 years old, that's pretty socially alienating. If you're saying, I'm feeling really stressed because of this, somebody's going to help you. When people know how to help you, they will. But just being silent and having that meltdown, people don't know what to do, so they run away. So Noam Chomsky said that the ability to develop language and communication is innate. He also said that we learn language, grammar, and syntax through observation, and we internalize, generalize, and maintain language through practice and the ability to interact and practice with others. And the same thing goes for social skills. It's exactly the same. We just have to be able to create environments and support people in doing that, instead of just expecting everybody to naturally do it. Like, you're not going to go to a concert and know how to play guitar by the end of it, right? You're going to have to practice, okay? Malcolm Gladwell will back me up on this. 10,000 hours and you can master anything, right? But you need to be able to practice, and you need to be comfortable enough to practice again so you don't have that fight or flight response come out. So we teach, and so I teach my students about this. I teach them how their brains function. I teach them that their brains are plastic, there's neuroplasticity. Just because you're having a tough time with this, just because it doesn't feel natural, doesn't mean that you're not ever going to be able to do it. And understanding how puberty is affecting their brain and everything else. Those are all really important things to know. One of my visuals from my classroom. And then I leave you with this. So neuroplasticity is a remarkable thing, and it helps students to create new social neuropathways for people on the spectrum. And it's a way for them to optimize their potential and help them reach their goals, and to feel like the Sachs quote, as though they possess the tools and the skills to fully have themselves and to be the owners and authors and orators of their own narratives. So thank you so much.